Hey, I'm Julie. Welcome to my studio. We're continuing our summer painting tutorial series with a painting of a scalloped seashell this week. I felt inspired to paint a shell because I just went to the beach last week with my family, and my daughters and I found a whole bunch of these guys that were intact. They were beautiful, and we brought a few of them home, and shells feel like summertime. And in the tutorial, we're going to get into how to achieve these nice blended areas of color, how to apply the paint, and how to layer up all of these different colors to create really nice, lovely patterning and blending in our shell. So I'm really excited to dive into all of that with you. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so the supplies that we're going to be using today are a small piece of mixed media paper. This is my favorite kind of paper from Strathmore, and I will link it and all the other supplies down in the description so that you can easily find them. But yeah, I just cut a small piece of paper so that it wouldn't be such a huge time-consuming painting. So we'll use a little piece like that. And then I have a number 10 round brush and a pencil for sketching. I have my disposable paper palette here, and the colors we're using are white, cadmium yellow medium, quinacridone red, and phthalo green, this little dark dot. It's even hard to tell that it's green there, but it's just my favorite go-to dark green for mixing shades that involve green. And then I have a picture of our little scallop shell on my iPad here. And then I thought it would be helpful to show you guys this along the way. This is my practice demo sketch for this tutorial, and I'll just hold it up so you can see. This is where we're going with the painting. Our painting will not end up looking exactly like this, but I thought it would be helpful to have that along with the photo so that you can kind of see how we're interpreting the photo and the kind of like what it's going to look like after we are done building up all of our layers. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to start with is a sketch. So to sketch our little shell, I'm going to start by kind of deciding where the bottom point of this fan shape is. We'll draw in a real basic fan shape, and then when we're painting, we'll put on the scallops. So we're not going to do that quite yet. So the bottom of the fan shape will be like a little smiley face, like right here. And then the sides go up almost straight, maybe bowing in just a little bit, up to like the two corners here. And then we want to make like sort of a rounded corner. And then before I draw the sides, I'm going to decide where the top of the shell is. I find it really helpful to know where I'm aiming for and what kind of that midpoint is of my curve. So I think that's an okay spot. And then we're gonna I think our corners need to be a little further out to make it up there and make a nice pleasing shape. And then I'm just gonna draw, kind of sketch in my little curved line up here. And same thing on this side, we'll have it just go up there. This side looks a little bit bigger than the other one, so I'm just going to even it out by making that a bit wider there. And we'll go ahead and just clean it up a little bit. This sketch is really just going to be a guide for the very basic shape. We're not going to draw details or anything, any lines or anything like that. We're just going to get the basic outline of our shell here. And okay, so then the little edge pieces right here kind of angle down just a bit, and then we'll just put on a little curved corner and back in they go. Same thing on this side, curve down just a little bit, little corner and back in. You know, I think I want, after looking at this and kind of comparing it to the photo, I think I want it to be a little taller. So I'm going to fix this You can go ahead and adjust as much as you need to your drawing, but it was looking like a little short. There. I like that better. Okay, so now that we have our sketch, we're gonna go ahead and mix just a base, kind of peachy, light yellowy peach color for just filling in the whole shell and kind of just making the first base layer. So I'm gonna use some white and we'll start with red and then some yellow. Just swirl it together. I just want something light to medium. It's not really a big deal getting the shade very exact. And as you'll see, as we work on this shell, I really found that it just needed layer after layer after layer to kind of build up a more pleasing, realistic look. Just a few layers did not really cut it. It kind of went through like an ugly middle phase, and that's totally fine. We just have to keep working at it and adding layers to get it to look more convincing and more realistic looking. And even though my painting does not at all look like a photo, it has a certain amount of depth and layer and texture to it. So all of that to say, we're going to layer a lot on this painting, so don't worry about really the particular shade of this first layer. So I just sort of have like a soft peachy pink color. So I'm just gonna paint this in just along our edge, and we'll add the scallop in just a minute, like the little wavy edge. So even with this first layer, after I kind of get that edge, I like starting to kind of think about the direction of those lines. This really is not going to affect the painting. It just helps me start getting familiar with, okay, the angle that I need to be painting. And you might see just a little bit of the stroke direction as it dries, but it's more just to help my hand and my mind start working its way and getting familiar with that. I find that as I'm painting anything that has sort of a texture to it, using your strokes in the direction of that texture or that surface really helps it be more convincing. Rather than just painting this any old way, it helps, I think, to use your strokes to kind of describe the pattern or the direction or the texture of the surface. And using it that way kind of, I don't know, just in the end, it helps it look more like your subject. Okay, and then we'll fill in these little bottom parts here, and I'm just going to leave just like a little hairline of white just for now so that I can see where that line goes through. If you can imagine the line connecting, that's fine. You could just paint that solid, but I like to kind of just leave that so that I know where to put in the shadow area and that dividing line later on when we mix those colors. Whoa, and some pink is coming out of my brush, which is interesting, but that doesn't really matter, so we're just gonna leave it there. Okay. So now I'm gonna go ahead and put the wavy edge on. So when we look at our photo, we see that there's kind of a central one. And so I'm gonna put that one in first. And then I'm just gonna work off of that and just kind of create a wavy edge going beyond our straight line. And they do get a little smaller as we get towards the end. So I'll make my little waves maybe slightly smaller than the first one. There we go. Now it's making the first one look a little too small, so maybe I'll make them a bit bigger there. There we go. Okay, and then we'll go down this side. There, and then I'm just sort of fanning out and smoothing out that edge to kind of help it blend. There we go. Okay, the next thing that we're gonna do is just sort of show the high point of those ridges by creating a highlight color for them. So I'm just gonna take some white and mix it in with an edge of this peach. We're just gonna make a lighter version of that, almost sort of whitish. There we go. Okay. And I might need to add a little bit of water to help it blend and flow off of my brush a little better. There we go. Okay, so where each of our little ruffled edges sticks out, that's where the highlight is going to be, and it's going to be just a little stripe starting there and then going straight into our center part, like little spokes. So then go ahead and do this one, and I'm not gonna sweat them being perfect, them being, you know, pristine. I'm just sort of sketching them in. There we go. And if it helps to start here and go towards that ruffle, that's okay too. You can do them either way. And you can turn your paper too if that helps. And I'm kind of pushing down more at the wide part to get the bristles to fan out, and then I'm letting up pressure as I drag inwards. And that can help your brush strokes taper in there. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and go and do this side. And if some of them touch, no worries. There's lots of layers that we're going to do to kind of work back and forth, light and dark, so don't worry if one of those little shadow stripes gets covered over, it's okay. And they definitely get really thin down in here, so if they end up merging together a little bit, no worries. There we go. And then I'll add maybe just a little bit of this down here like we're seeing in the photo. So now we'll go ahead and rinse out our brush, get all that white out of there, and we're gonna start making kind of a medium to dark reddish orange color to go ahead and start putting the stripes that are going across the shell side to side. To make that color, we'll go ahead and grab some red and some yellow. We're gonna be making all kinds of different shades of orange and peach and stuff like that as we go through this painting. So I'm just gonna make kind of a larger amount here, and then we'll tweak it and change it for the different uses that we need as we go along. So we've got kind of like a basic medium orange, and to make it just a little bit calmer and take the edge off of it, like the vibrant edge off of it, I'm gonna take a little dip of green, just like the tiniest little bit, and it kind of calms down red and red-orange because green is opposite on the color wheel from red, so it's its complementary color, and it just kind of browns it out a little bit and mutes it. So we've got kind of a orangey red brown. I think I want a little bit more red in there actually. Let's just try that. And we don't have any white in this color, so I think it's going to be a little on the dark side, so I'm just going to grab a bit of white there, and that actually kind of makes a cool like terracotta color. Okay, let's go ahead and choose a stripe. So I'm going to work on some of these ones here, and I'm going to paint on the highlight, and I'm going to do little curves. So we're curving upwards to show that it's a ridge that's bending up, and I'll just do just a series of little curved lines, and they don't all have to be exactly the same or matching exactly because, of course, shells have a lot of variation in them. There's sort of a pattern, but also it's not exact. It's not like perfectly matching. So that gives us a lot of freedom to kind of just toss some little curves on there and have them look like similar, but not stressing about it being exact. And I might do one above, one below to kind of show like the pattern sort of fragments and varies as it goes across. So that's kind of fun. I found that's really fun to do. And so you can just play and experiment and enjoy the process. Okay, so I'm gonna do this also maybe in the slightly more orange version. I'll mix a little bit of white in with that orange over there and go ahead and do this again. I'm trying to decide above, maybe a little above and a little bit below. So we're gonna leave a bit of white and then go for like a stripe or two of this orange. And some of them can touch, some of them can have more separation. And again, if you're kind of worrying and being like, mine is looking really weird, it's okay. It goes through a weird sort of phase, sort of an ugly middle phase before we pull it all together and really help all the transitions and all the colors look like they make sense. So don't worry, just follow the process and we'll get you there. So I'm just making another little row down here. And as you're working, just remember that your sections and of the pattern should be kind of curving to match the curve of the top of the shell. We don't want to accidentally like make all of your sections going straight, right? We want them to curve. Okay, I think I'll mix, maybe I'll just grab some white and mix it in, and we'll just do another area lower down with a lighter version because the colors in this shell are more intense towards the outer edges, and then it gets a little bit more muted in this middle section. So we'll go ahead and follow that. We'll just mix some white in there to help it be a bit more like a peachy, soft tone. And these are little lines here. So I'm just using almost like little dashes. I'm trying to curve them, but it's not, perfect. They're almost straight because they're just so short. And I might do another little row of them. And now I'm just making little dashes because that's all about we're seeing, or that's about all we're seeing, right? There we go. Okay, I think I'm gonna make something a bit more yellowy because I love these more yellowy, goldeny sort of tones. So I'm just gonna grab some yellow and mix it with what we've got. And maybe we'll do a row of yellow marks that are below the orange right here. So let's go ahead and go like right below and maybe kind of touching the orange. I kind of like that idea, how the yellow sort of merges with some of the other colors. Maybe I'll even go over the orange a little bit there. There, I like that. So one of the things I noticed is as I was painting along in my demo painting, that right now, the markings are looking very stark, like they're not really they're looking painted on, to be honest. Like they're looking like, and they're not really part of the shell. They're kind of like a weird pattern floating on top of the shell. Like they're not very well integrated. And that just is because we don't have all the values we need and all of the blends that we need yet. So if it's looking a little rough right now, that is why it's looking kind of weird, because we don't have all the shadows and highlights and values. And we're going to do some kind of pretty blends with some white a little later on. And it'll help kind of integrate the pattern more and help it look more like it really is on a shell. Okay, I'm just scattering this because I'm seeing the yellow up top here. So I'm just scattering some little flecks of it along the top. Okay, I think I'm gonna pause with our markings here, and we're gonna do a darker value to kind of reinforce those shadow lines that are part of our scalloping pattern, the grooves. So I'm gonna go ahead and rinse out my brush, and we're gonna make a darker version of that rusty red color that we did before. We're gonna make it maybe a little bit more on the brown purple sort of a side. So I'm gonna add a bit more red to that corner, and we're gonna use some green, and we're gonna get it darker. There we go. Ooh. Okay. And one of the things that our painting needs to help the scallops look more realistic is to kind of emphasize that width of the shadow where the grooves begin. So I'll show you what I mean. So we want to make sure that the beginning of the groove is wide, and then it gets thinner. So it's wide when the scoop is going down, and then we can make these thinner as it goes in towards the middle. So I'm going to just work on that. We're going to make this dark shadow color wide at the top and then go down in. And if it's going over some of our other colors, that's okay. That's all part of the process, is kind of layering over and over our colors over each other. And that's what kind of develops the depth and the interest in the painting. So wide at the top, and then kind of getting down more into like a little V point shape. And if your paint at all feels dry or scratchy or is not carrying your stroke very far, you might just need to use a little dab of water to help it flow off your bristles. Mine was feeling a little on the dry, scratchy side, so a little flow will help, a little water for the flow. So we'll just keep working our way across. And I noticed in the photo, this is more the shadow side of our painting, or of our shell. Like this is more shadowy and this is lighter. You can see the shadows are not nearly as dark on this side in the grooves. So as I move across, to kind of give it that slightly more realistic look, like there's a light source going on here, I am going to go ahead and just grab a little bit of white, and we're just gonna lighten our shadow color up a shade. Let's see if that's too much. Nope, that looks okay. And I might just kind of stroke a bit of it into the one before to kind of help with that transition. And then we'll just move to this slightly lighter color here. And I want to bring my little shadows all the way down. There we go. Okay, and then I want to keep emphasizing that dip. Oh, and I felt like I lost my way a little bit there, but that's okay. We'll fix that later as we keep on going with our layers. I'm really not too concerned about like weird little shakes of my hand or little line inconsistencies, because this shell has so much texture and interest in layers of color that we're just gonna kind of hide all of those things in the end, and it'll look great. There, I think that is great. Okay, so now we're going to use this dark color to show the shadowy part on these little sides. So where the shell overlaps, it's casting a shadow on these little tabs. So if you still have that little white dividing line, you can cover it up with this. There we go. Just kind of scrub it in there. It doesn't have to have a very smooth edge to it. Okay, so we're going to clean out our brush, and the next color we're going to make is sort of a grayish purple color. So I notice in a lot of these scallop shells, the red kind of changes to like a grayish purple. And even though it's not really intense and obvious in this photo, I'm going to play that up a little bit because I love that balance of, or that contrast of purple with the more warm orange yellow tones. I think that's really pretty and fun. So I'm going to make kind of a purple color out of our red and our green. So Phthalo Green is a blue shade of green. And so when you mix it with red, it can make a purplish sort of tone. So you can see how our red is turning much more purple with the mixture of that green. So maybe just a little bit more here. Okay, and then we're gonna just add a good amount of white in here. And so now we kind of have this weird, chalky, kind of gray purple, which is perfect for what we're looking for. Okay, so I'm going to use this in the creases a little bit. I think I wanted it a little darker. I held it up and it looked like it's not quite right, so I'm going to just darken it a bit. So we're going to use this in some of our creases and then also for some more of our little pattern lines. So I'm going to just drag this down in some of our creases here. And this is just adding another dimension, another sort of interesting layer of color. There we go. And now I'm going to add quite a bit of white to just a corner of it. And we're going to use it for some of these faint, really light sort of markings that are near the base of the shell. So let's just go across and see if we can do some little rows of this. And if it overlaps over the other colors that we have, that's totally fine. That's what it's all about, these overlapping areas of color. So maybe a little above. That looks nice. A little above, a little maybe in between, a little below that orange. And just that back and forth play of colors overlaying each other is really where the depth in the shell comes from. So I'm just keeping it in this lower zone for now. And maybe we'll just put a tinge of it higher up. Let's see. Maybe a little bit here would be nice. Yeah, that looks good. Yeah, I think just maybe a tiny hint at it up here and just kind of like scuff it over the top edge of that row would be nice. And if it looks like we're losing too much of our light, we are, and that's okay because we're gonna re-establish that white in just a minute. Okay, I think that's good for the purple. I would like to go back to this really dark purple and put it in right here to really pop that edge out some, more. There. I think that looks great. Okay, so let's rinse out the brush now. And before we go any further, I'm going to blow dry this to make sure that all the colors are completely dry on the paper, because we're going to do a wash of color over them. And I don't want it picking up wet paint and kind of messing up the things that we've done already. So I'm gonna go ahead and dry it out real quick. Okay, so now that our colors are dry, we're going to make a thin white, and we're gonna use them to kind of make a hazy wash to bring some of these highlights back in on the top of the ridges. So I'm gonna water down this white a good amount. And using the thin paint will let some of the colors below show through and will look really beautiful and like, you know, pastel-y sort of versions of them. So let's just try this white out and see what it looks like. So I'm gonna just kind of dab it in with the tip of my brush and just kind of try it out on some of these ridges. That looks pretty good. I'm just gonna use it to kind of lighten up some of the colors and dab them in, because right here I see a lot more light than I have in my painting. So I'm gonna try to bring that back by just sort of doing little washes here. Ooh, and just kind of blending it with my finger is kind of fun. And you can see it's sort of just hazily is making various shades out of the colors that we've already put down, and it's really pretty. Okay, so we're gonna use this up here a little bit, and I'm just gonna make a little curve of white that goes over a section of the colors that we've already put in. But since it's sort of transparent white, it'll dry with, you know, some see-through effects, and we'll let those colors kind of be pastel versions of themselves. I think I'll extend this up here just a little bit. I think this red, that first red stripe that we did kind of needs a little softening. So I might actually just make a softer, kind of lighter version of that red. I think that will look nice. Kind of dab it over in some areas and kind of soften the edges. I'm gonna make a more orangey, a darker, more orangey color, because I think I want to go for a little bit more of a dark tone in this stripe right here. There we go. Just like a little thread of darker going through. So it's really just sort of playing with the colors you have on your palette, just like adding, subtracting, a little more, a little less of your yellow, your red, your white, to kind of get a variety of shades. There we go. So I'm gonna go for like a double stripe. There, I think that looks nice. Okay, so next we're gonna make just a light, creamy yellow color, just like a kind of white yellow. We're going to add that in just to kind of add to the pastel look down at the bottom here. So I'm just going to use just little vertical strokes now to kind of try to calm some of the crazy down here just a little bit, but it's all in the layers. So like none of these layers go to waste as we're going over and over them. They really are just building up something that you couldn't have by just painting a layer or two. You really need the history of all these things going over each other to build up to what we're ending up with, which is the whole point of the process of painting. I don't think I want this color to go up too far, so I'm gonna leave it right there and rinse. And I think one of the last things I'm gonna do is just get plain white. And I'm just gonna bring back a little bit of the highlight on some of these. I think they lost a little bit on these upper curves, and I like that lighter look at the top. So I'm going to bring those down a bit. And then I'm going to just pop back in a couple bright more white highlights in this section here. And even going over the dark lines, I think in making them a lighter version helps. And then if it looks like too much, I'm just rubbing it a little bit, scuffing it up a little bit. Yeah, I think we need a bit of that up here. Bringing a pop of light back to these. And it's really just a little push and pull. You just kind of go back and forth, dark, light, until you get that good balance that we're looking for. Yeah, I think just like really lightly, just kind of dry brushing it on top of some of these darker tones just helps the highlights pop out again. Okay, I think the painting is finished. I feel like the areas have all gotten a good amount of blending. Nothing is really popping out and seeming stark or harsh. Everything has gotten softened and kind of all the transitions look good to me. And there's also a good amount of dark values and light values in the shell, which we want to help it look pleasing and dynamic, and like there's a good strong light shining on the shell. So I'm really happy with this, and I hope you had fun painting along too. Thanks so much for joining me. If you found this tutorial helpful, then I would love to have you check out my acrylic painting online classes. You can click the first link in the description below to find out all about them. I have 3 classes so far that focus on different nature subjects like flowers, water lilies, and birds, and I walk you step by step through each of the lessons. They're very beginner friendly. So if you're looking for more guidance and learning in your acrylic painting process, I would love to have you join me in one of those classes. All right, I will see you in the next video, and until then, happy painting.